Hello, my name is Verlomme. I'm a writer. I've been an ecologist for more than 30 years, and I'm specialized in writing about the ocean. So one might wonder how I got involved into writing a book about plastic bags. Well, the thing is, a few years ago in France, they proposed to have a law which would make mandatory biodegradable plastic bags instead of regular plastic bags. And this put my attention on it. I wonder what to do with this, because biodegradable is a very bad thing for a bag. So I started to write an article about biodegradable plastic bags, because a biodegradable plastic bag is made out of corn. And corn is very bad for the environment because, as you know, corn requires lots of pesticides and fungicides. Also, it takes lots of water from the soil. And I thought it was a very strange gesture to grow food in order to have something which is disposable. I don't think it's correct. And the main thing is that when you say to people, this bag is biodegradable, what are they going to do? They're going to throw it away in the ground thinking it's biodegradable. So what we try to do with ecology, first of all, is to teach the people the right gestures. And I figure that giving biodegradable bags to people was teaching them the wrong message and the wrong gesture, because we don't have compost here as we have in other countries, and there's no way we can really dispose of these bags. In fact, the people did this because this word biodegradable seems like a very good word. It seems ecological. People who don't really think it's going to be better if it's biodegradable. And it shows how much ecology today is very much cosmetics. It's just the idea. And I didn't like this idea of trying to push biodegradable bags. So what happened is I started to investigate on the plastic bags, which I would never have done before. Because like anybody else, I thought that plastic bags were evil, that they were the worst thing on earth, because they were everywhere in the country, in the ocean. And I love the ocean very much. We all know these pictures of a turtle or a dolphin or a bird dead because he swallowed some plastic object. But strangely enough, people think, in a case like that, they think we should get rid of the object. They don't think of how this object got in the ocean. Because, as far as I know, I don't think plastic bags have little legs and they go away from households directly to the sea or to the forest. If we find these plastic bags everywhere, it's because people haven't disposed properly of these bags. So I started to look more closely at plastic bags to know what were these things that were an icon of pollution, that were the symbol of pollution. And one thing I realized talking with lots of people is that, in fact, a plastic bag, its main problem is that it's visual. It's visual pollution before anything else. Because when it decomposes, the problem is mechanical, it's aesthetics. It's not nice. Of course, a beach with a plastic bag is not nice, but it's less polluting than many things that we don't see. The problem with a plastic bag is just that we see it. And it's got so many qualities, and these qualities can become its worst enemies. Like, a plastic bag is free. And because it's free, we dispose of it. We haven't paid for it. So once we've used it, why do anything with it? It hasn't cost me anything. I can throw it away. Okay, that's one quality. It's free, and because it's free, we find it everywhere. It's very strong and very light. And because it is so strong and light, which is, as far as I know, a quality, because it's like this, we find it here and there and everywhere, and it lasts a while. Here, I would like to add something. Here we have people saying it takes 20 seconds to make a plastic bag and 400 years to decompose. And nobody knows how long a plastic bag takes to decompose, because the first plastic bags came in the 60s And if you put it in the desert or in the Arctic or in the ocean or wherever, the time is totally different. So this is just, you know, again, it's cosmetics. It's a way of saying things. It's like ecology. It's easy to get little formulas like this that everybody repeats, but that are not really true. So all the qualities of the bag, in fact, makes it so visible that everybody is against it, and it becomes a scapegoat. Since ecology has become so fashionable and everybody today wants to be an eco-citizen, everybody is trying to get greenwashing, and what the supermarkets have done in France and in many countries is to simply forbid plastic bags, the little plastic bags that we used to use at the supermarkets. The strange thing, the interesting thing, is that after this forbidding the plastic bags and making them payable, that you had to pay for it, suddenly they realized that they were selling more plastic bags, and the plastic people were giving more material for the supermarkets, and there were more plastic bags sold than there used to be when they were free. So again, here we have a pervert effect of something that was supposed to be ecological and was become counterproductive. It's true that for years we have distributed these plastic bags by the thousands, and it was too many. But now it's nothing, and this is not fair either, because people suddenly realize that these little plastic bags are really useful, because you use it for trash can, you use it when you come back from the pool, when you're at the beach, or when you go for picnics. All these plastic bags are very useful, and suddenly you had to buy them. So the production of plastic has grown instead of diminishing. And very often the reason why plastic bags are attacked is because it's such an easy target, because it's visual and it's very simple to suppress. Why did it become, you know, such a culprit? The thing is, in 1973, there was the first major oil crisis with the OPEC countries. Before that, people thought there would be oil forever. And suddenly with this crisis, there were all these rumors saying that we would not have oil in a few years and so on. And people started to be afraid that, you know, all these resources someday would go away. And then they turned and looked around for all the things containing oil that were to ban. And of course, the poor plastic bag was there again as a scapegoat. And everybody says, it's made of oil, this is a real bad product, when a few years before it was fantastic, everybody had it, you can use it for so many things. But suddenly, because it contained oil, it became bad. The thing is, people who say that don't realize that, in fact, plastic contains very little oil. It takes only 4% of the world consumption of oil to make all plastics of the world. And when you look around you, you can see that plastics are absolutely everywhere. Besides, today, plastics today contain less and less oil, and they contain more and more other components from the vegetable world or from mineral world. But the thing is, people don't realize most of the time that thanks to plastic, we save all this gas, we save all this heating. Like cars used to weigh a lot, and because a car is heavy, you burn more gas. And now with plastics that are strong, that you can mold in any shape, we have vehicles, including trains and helicopters, planes, anything you name it, that are faster and lighter and consume then less gas. And it's a big saving. Same in building. You've got houses that are airtight now, and you can save your heating instead of having old wooden or exotic wood windows that are not very good for insulation. So all these things are not taken into account when people say all these bad things about plastic. People don't realize that in fact plastics can save the environment. There's one very simple example. This is in the 19th century, in 1863. The United States had a challenge, and it was for billiard players, because the billiard balls were made out of ivory from the elephants. And the players were finding that the price of these balls, of these billiard balls, was too high because lots of elephants got killed at that time, and there were 12,000 elephant kills every year at that time, not only for billiard, but for ivory. Therefore, the balls became expensive, and also the balls made out of ivory sometimes had little defects. So they were trying to find a substitute for these ivory balls. And there was lots of research, and a few years later, two brothers named the Hyatt, very famous, Hyatt brothers, invented celluloid. And thanks to celluloid, they were able to make plastic balls for billiards. So if you think about it, this means that by inventing these plastic balls, they saved some elephants. And this could apply to many things today that were made out of natural resources in the past, like wood or stuff like that, and now is made out of plastic. Thanks to plastic, we can save all these materials. In fact, the truth is that if we didn't have plastics, it would take 2, 3, 4 planets to live as we live. There's nothing we use today that we could use without the use of plastics. So I think it's time now to reconsider plastic and plastic bags as something very ecological and positive. And many people ask, what is it to be eco-friendly? And very often I answer that being eco-friendly is not choosing one material above another. That's not enough. Being eco-friendly is different for everybody according to how you live. But the more important is the ethics and the gesture, the way you live. Maybe what's ecological for you is not for me, but it's important to have this in your mind, in your spirit. And like being eco-friendly is not using paper bags instead of plastic bags, because in many organic stores you find paper bags, and paper bags are way more polluting than plastic bags. To make them, to store them, you can't reuse it, and paper mills, industry produce acid rain and so on. So for the consumer it can be nice because they think paper is more natural, quote, than plastics. But in fact, paper is more polluting, and a plastic bag is more ecological than a paper bag. So being eco-friendly doesn't mean having this material instead of that one. Of course, if you can use the same bag every time you go to the shop and not spoil bags, this is eco-friendly, of course. Because of all these qualities, I think the main thing for plastic producers today is not to defend itself against attacks saying we don't do this, we don't do that. But I think the feeling of pride is very important. I think people who produce plastic, as long as the plastic is well used, should be proud of what they're doing, because they're doing something very useful for the environment, and there are many ways to show it. I was very struck lately by an ad from a very famous NGO for surfers and the environment. Their ad was showing an ocean full of plastic bottles and plastic objects floating everywhere. And you see suddenly a sperm whale, a beautiful sperm whale that's totally entangled into all these plastics. And this poor cetacean doesn't manage to get out of the plastics, and he kind of dies covered with plastic. And what they say, the slogan of this thing is "Raise above plastics." And this has been done by this NGO for surfers. And there's something totally absurd in this, because if the surfing industry exists, it's only because of plastics. And this is very important to understand. I'm a sea lover, and how come we can today surf and dive and sail and swim winter and summer? How is it we can do that? It's only through the use of plastics. We have surfboards, we have wetsuits, we have sailboats, we have diving gears, we've got flippers. All these tools that make the ocean available to everybody are made out of plastics. And this NGO says rise above plastics. That means stop surfing, stop going in the ocean. And how do they communicate these things? With what tools do you tell the people stop with plastics? With a computer? With a cell phone? If you don't have plastics, how do you communicate? So the same people who are against plastic use it. And also plastic is the tool, the main tool for young people today. All the young people, teenagers, they have these skateboards, they have all this clothing that made out of plastic matters sometimes too. And for the young people, plastic can take all shapes, all colors. And I think if there were no plastics, the world would be very different. When people complain about plastics, it's very interesting to ask them to try to imagine their world, the way they live, without plastics. What would we do? Wooden telephones, steel cars, planes that would burn all this gas? So there's lots of absurdity in there. And besides, when people talk about alternative resources for tomorrow, windmills, solar panels, all these things, what are they made of? Plastics. Plastics are the best tools for alternative energies collection, how to get new energies. We need these plastics. And I think oil is a very, very precious material that should not be spoiled into engines, burned in the atmosphere. This is the silly thing. It's 80% of oil is for engines, for cars that could go with other sources of energy. That's a big spoilage. But oil should be kept for all these very precious things, for medicine and plastics. And I think it's the main resource for tomorrow, because there is no other material that can shape our dreams like plastic does.